Okay, when I say greatest singer of all time, who pops into your head? You're probably thinking of the titans, the big names, right? But what if I told you that the most influential singers, well, they might not be the ones you're thinking of. Today, we're going to look past the famous faces and find the real architects, the women who didn't just sing, they literally re-engineered the human voice.
You know the names: Aretha, Ella, Billie. The big three, right? They are, without a doubt, the pillars of modern singing. I mean, their names are practically carved into the foundation of music. Their sound? Iconic. Their influence? You can't even measure it. But that's not the whole story. Not by a long shot.
So, if they are the pillars holding everything up, then who were the architects? You know, the brilliant minds who actually drew up the blueprints for the sounds we all know and love today. Well, that's exactly the question we're going to dig into.
To really get into this, we have to make a key distinction. We've got to understand the difference between a pillar and an architect.
Think of it like this. The pillars, they're the iconic performers we all celebrate. They're the ones who brought the music to the world stage. But the architects, they're the technical innovators, the ones who are tinkering under the hood, completely re-engineering the instrument of the voice itself, and in doing so, giving us a whole new vocal language. So let's meet three of the most important architects.
All right, first up, the one and only Sarah Vaughan. Now, people often say Ella Fitzgerald was the master of rhythm, and that's true. But Sarah Vaughan, she was the master of frequency. Her approach to her voice, I mean, it wasn't just innovative, it was absolutely revolutionary.
So what she did, we can call it instrumentalism. And it's exactly what it sounds like. She didn't just treat her voice as a way to tell a story with lyrics. Nope. For her, her voice was a lead instrument, like a trumpet or a saxophone, capable of playing these incredibly complex, intricate musical phrases.
And what an instrument she had. We're talking 4 octaves. 4. That is a staggering range, all the way from a deep baritone up to a soaring soprano. But you know, having that physical gift, that was just the start. It's what she did with it that truly made her an architect.
Okay, get this. She could make her voice sound like a bebop saxophone, mirroring the crazy complex runs of guys like Charlie Parker. And then she'd do something even wilder. She'd sing the notes between the notes on a piano. We're talking microtonal shifts that most singers wouldn't even dream of attempting. On top of all that, her control was so insane she could go from a gritty growl to a delicate whisper in the space of a single phrase. I mean, she basically wrote the book on vocal agility.
All right, for our second architect, we're going to shift gears. We're moving from the world of jazz to the absolute roots of R&B and soul. And we're talking about Mahalia Jackson. Now, Mahalia didn't just sing gospel music. She created the technical blueprint for the kind of powerhouse vocals that would define generations of singers.
Her key innovation is something called structural mellissima. Now, you've definitely heard mellissima, you know, when a singer takes one syllable and stretches it across a whole bunch of notes. But here's the thing. For Mahalia, it was never just decoration. It wasn't just a fancy flourish. It was the rhythmic engine of the entire song.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. Most singers use melisma like sprinkles on a cupcake. It's a nice little flourish on top. But Mahalia, she used it to bake the cupcake itself. Her vocal runs were the rhythmic, percussive foundation of the song. They created this bounce that you could physically feel.
And how did she do it? It all came down to her total mastery of vocal weight. She used her entire body like a giant resonating chamber to create this powerful, almost percussive sound that was just completely new at the time. Let me be real clear. Without Mahalia Jackson, you don't get Aretha Franklin, you don't get Whitney Houston. She literally built the bridge that they, and so many others, walked across.
Okay, for our final architect, we are taking a hard left turn. We're leaving jazz and gospel behind, and we're heading straight for the opera house. And this is where we're going to meet maybe the most controversial and honestly the most revolutionary technician of them all, Maria Callas.
See, before Maria Callas, opera was pretty much all about making a pretty sound. It had to be beautiful, perfect, pure. And she just shattered that tradition. She dug up this old technique called bel canto, which literally means beautiful singing, and she flipped it on its head. For Callas, beautiful singing wasn't about sounding pleasant. It was about sounding true.
This quote really nails it. She proved that technical mastery wasn't about being perfect. It was about being expressive. She wasn't chasing some impossible ideal of perfection. She was chasing raw human expression.
She would use every single tool in her vocal toolbox to serve the character she was playing, even if it meant the sound that came out was ugly or cracked or raw. For her, that wasn't a mistake. That was the whole point.
And maybe her most radical move was her flat-out refusal to smooth over the breaks in her voice. You know how most singers work really hard to hide that little flip between their deep chest voice and their higher head voice to make it seamless? Callis did the exact opposite. She weaponized those breaks. She used the raw, almost guttural power of her low notes and the fragile, delicate vulnerability of her high notes as emotional tools. It was nothing short of a revolution in what vocal acting could be.
Okay, so we've got three incredible architects, all from totally different worlds. Sarah Vaughan from jazz, Mahalia Jackson from gospel, and Maria Callas from opera. So the big question is, how do all these different innovations come together to create the singers we hear today? Let's connect the dots.
It really boils down to this. From Sarah Vaughan, we get the range, this idea that the voice can be a virtuosic instrument with truly limitless agility. From Mahalia Jackson, we get the weight, the actual blueprint for that powerful, resonant, rhythmic soul vocal. And from Maria Callas, we get the drama, the permission slip really to sacrifice just being pretty for the sake of raw, emotional truth. The modern singer you hear today, they're drawing from all three of these wells.
So the next time you're listening to someone like Beyoncé or Adele or even artists like Frank Ocean or SZA, when you hear a voice that cracks with emotion one second and then soars across octaves the next, listen a little closer, because you're not just hearing a great singer, you're hearing the brilliant foundational work of the architects.